The Ukraine aid bill has cleared a crucial hurdle in committee and will likely be put to vote by the end of the day. Just what will happen and what are the odds that this bill will actually make it to the president's desk? Plus, are the right-wing Republicans doing their best to put on a trolling show? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. So this is the number one story, is that, and I'm picking this Guardian article because the Guardian does a good job of sort of summarizing the U.S. political infighting that happened. But the U.S. House is going to vote. It's going to make it to the House floor on the Ukraine and other foreign aid bills. And this is basically a final showdown for what they're calling a months-long standoff in Congress over Ukraine aid. And it's a little more complicated than just that, but the crucial thing to understand is that bills to be brought to the House floor have to leave the committee. They're considered drafted in this committee. A committee weighs if they really should be voted on in the House floor, and then they're moved on for a vote by the main body. The problem is that the committee where this bill was sitting had been dominated by far-right Republicans, meaning that the Republicans had no choice but to give in to whatever these the far right wing of their party wanted, because otherwise this bill was never going to get passed. But eventually they came to realize that they weren't negotiating in good faith, that the things they claimed they wanted, like a strong border bill, they actually got. They got a once in a generation, unbelievably powerful border bill. Again, it was never actually written, so we don't know exactly what it would have said, but most of the negotiated provisions were everything conservative presidents have been trying to do to reform the immigration system for at least 25 years. And when they got that, they basically didn't do anything with it. Donald Trump said, I can't let Joe Biden, my opponent, get an immigration win, even if the win is a very conservative immigration reform. So it's better to ensure that the border remains in relative chaos, which is insane. And so finally, the House is over their games and is pushing this through to vote. But crucially, what I think is most interesting is that the committee that it had to get through was actually required the votes of a number of Democrats, right? Plus, it also required a procedural vote. The House needed to trigger a special set of procedures to bring it to the floor. And the procedural vote actually was approved 316 to 94 with 165 Democrats and 151 Republicans supporting the motion. So again, Churchill had an old phrase. He said, Americans will do the right thing only when all other options are exhausted. And that's basically where we're at. We see that even in this era of polarization, with enough public pressure and frankly, enough evidence laid before them that this isn't grandstanding, this isn't political theater, right? The Ukrainians really are losing ground. They really did lose Avdiivka. They're continuing to pull back from a wide range of areas across the front lines. And so they finally realized that they do actually have to get off their ass and once in a great while actually try to govern the country. So the Democrats and Republicans, at least the moderates, got together and got this, at least are bringing these bills to the floor. Now, there's a lot of controversy, of course, because they are four separate bills, one of which is Ukrainian aid, which is very popular among U.S. voters, but the other ones are aid to Israel, which is much, much, much less popular among U.S. voters, and a smaller bill focusing on aid to the Indo-Pacific and humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, Haiti, and the Sudan region. So this is a way to do it because then the speaker can say, listen, I put everything you wanted out there, and it's up to you guys piece by piece to decide what's really important and what's less important. But we still have dirtbag Republican, far-right Republicans who just are really, at first I thought were just right wing to be right wing, but now I think they're actually Russian agents, right? And of course, they're saying, "What did Johnson give away while he's begging Democrats for votes and protection?" ? Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene asked a Georgia Republican. All right, she says, "Our Republican speakers literally control the Democrats, giving them everything they want." But it's not, she doesn't really specify what exactly she's alleging that he gave up. You notice she does the classic dirtbag move of asking a question. And as we've talked about on this channel, asking a question, or I'm just asking questions, is a convenient way to make an allegation without having to be held accountable for things like libel when you say things that you know are false. So, for example, it would be potentially libelous of me if I were to claim, this is not true, this is an example, that Tom Brady and Sam Bankman-Fried worked together to steal people's money in crypto, right? They were in on it, they were best friends, and Tom Brady actually was the mastermind of the whole thing, right? That is a statement that I know is false, but I'm saying it anyway because I want to damage Tom Brady's reputation. Now, here's how I can say the same thing without getting in any trouble. I go, did Tom Brady and SBF conspire to steal your money in the FTX collapse? I asked a question. I can ask any question I want. Can turtles fly? Can a pig become a human being? Can Vladimir Putin's heart grow 3 sizes on Christmas Day, right? I can ask any question that has any sort of that has no bearing to reality, right? And so you can ask things like, she wants to say that Johnson made some secret deal with Democrats to, I don't know, bring communism or something into the United States, but she doesn't have any evidence. So she just says, what else did Johnson give away while he's begging for Democrat votes and protection? It's in the legislation. You can all read it. So if she can't find it in the legislation, the answer is it's not there. The Democrats do, unfortunately, also have to govern the country, and even they can get their act together and do the right thing, right? And of course, you have more clowns here, Thomas Massey and Paul Gosar. They say we need a speaker who puts America first rather than bending to the reckless demands of warmongers, neocons, and the military-industrial complex, making billions from a costly and endless war half a world away. And again, I point this out that it is not warmongering to stop someone else from invading another country. The U.S. had no plans. Ukraine was not going to invade Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine. And so you're not a warmonger if you are trying to finish a war. That's like saying the United States actually started World War II because they should have just let Germany, if Germany just took over France and Europe, then there would be nothing left to fight over, right? World War II would have ended. Now, of course, it would have meant the bad guys won and democratic countries would have been rolled over by a dictatorship that would have potentially killed millions more. But you know, if you put on Paul Gosar's perspective, it's the U.S.'s fault that World War II happened. So that's the kind of brain dead takes we're seeing from these people. And here's where it gets even more preposterous, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene has actually introduced a troll amendment that says that if you support the bill, you have to join the Ukrainian military, which is just a troll version of what some people claim, which is Congress people and politicians that vote for to send U.S. troops to a fight should also have to join the military, and even that's considered kind of a joke, right? Many of them have joined the military, do have military service records. We looked yesterday at what was his name, Jim Jeffries, who no, that's not right. Jeff Jackson. We looked at Jeff Jackson, who served in Afghanistan. So if there's anybody who knows what it means to support a conflict, it's someone like him. So, you know, she does this to be a troll. By her argument, though, if you want to vote for a policy or send money to help something, you should also serve in it. By that argument, Miss Border Security should join the Border Patrol. And, you know, do her part to secure America's border. But, of course, this is just her being a dirtbag. And I've got one more story about what an an eye-popping level of dirtbaggery this representative is. But first, I wanted to talk about combatvetnews.com. If you guys are interested in seeing how the Ukrainians are using the aid that hopefully they will be getting, and how they are using the limited resources they have to fight, you want to check out combatvetnews.com. Twice a week, I drop videos featuring uncensored combat footage, the kind that I can't show you here. But this is also the best way to support the channel. YouTube has really been cracking down on my ability to cover the news, cover this conflict. So if you want to support me and support what I do and keep the team able to do this, any one of these tiers is going to help me out. But obviously, if you want to become a lieutenant or even a colonel tier, boy, I would appreciate the heck out of it. And I shout you guys out at the end of every video. Now, this is what I thought was really just absolutely just aggravating, and a sign of just how disingenuous Marjorie Taylor Greene, but also all these guys are, right? And she actually has, she made a statement. Here, I'll find you the tweet. I might even get demonetized for showing you this, but I think this is important because you have to call this insanity out for what it is. She said, this is an actual tweet. Look, it's a screenshot of her tweet. She said, it's anti-Semitic to make Israeli aid contingent on funding Ukrainian Nazis. These should be separate bills. That's April 14, 2024. The irony is she got her wish. They are now separate bills. But more important is this, right? Claiming that Ukrainian forces are actually Nazis. And you may recall somebody else who has made this this comparison, and it is, of course, Vladimir Putin. Putin, right, is actually has been claiming since the start of the invasion for almost 2 years that Ukraine is been taken over actually by Nazis, right? Putin claims his war is one to eliminate the secret Nazi influence in Ukraine. And the insanity of this is that Ukraine's president is Jewish, who actually had family killed in the Holocaust, right? So it's very, very not true that you can't really, having a country run by a Jewish leader is incompatible fundamentally with being run by Nazis. It just is, right? That's core to the ideology. So right there should tell you that this is dumb, right? Now, you could sit there and be like, well, there's martial law and maybe, there's like a non-crazy person argument that says that, oh, the country has been under martial law, and it's not clear how much longer that will go on for. Is it right to have a leader who doesn't face election on the scheduled elections? Again, the Ukrainian constitution permits martial law, but right, those are discussions that are sane. But this is insane. And there's a bunch of other ways you can tell. For example, again, a democratically elected leader, a transition of power. You might recall that Zelensky won a free and fair election, right? Not something that really happens when you're a country run by Nazis. Obviously, there's a couple of other missing parts, like Ukraine not trying to purge minority ethnicities. But who is trying to do that is actually Russia. As part of their denazification campaign, for some reason, it involves rounding up orphaned Ukrainian children and shipping them into Russia. That's a real verified thing that is happening. It's part of their campaign to basically try to remove Ukrainian cultural influences from the occupied regions. So I say all this to understand that this is a claim that even a small amount of critical thinking would make you realize is untrue. And the only reason you would repeat this is if you got your talking points from Vladimir Putin and from the Kremlin, right? Because that's a core Kremlin talking point. And so that's what you should understand when you hear someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene make her criticisms or open her mouth, is that she is a parrot for Russian propaganda. That's just how it is. Is it intentional? I think so. You can't miss, there are sometimes sane people who criticize the US's policies vis-a-vis Russia. Sure. I think of like Dave Sachs, right? I don't agree with Dave Sachs, but he is not crazy. Sometimes he repeats Russian talking points, but it's because he actually seems to believe them, right? And he doesn't repeat every single one. He has his own set of criticisms that, again, I don't think he's right, but he's intellectually honest. This is not intellectually honest. This is someone who, again, is following what Vladimir Putin tells her to say, right? That's the bottom line. This was not a concern. This was not, and here's the thing. She shared a couple of articles being like, here's my evidence. And it's like two relatively small, like neo-Nazi groups that existed, 7 or 8 years ago, that were like kind of malicious. But guys, if that is the standard for what makes a country a Nazi country, also, you know who else has neo-Nazi militias? Russia. And in fact, the United States and Europe. And in fact, almost every country, basically every country in Europe and North America, it has small numbers of these toxic ideologies. That doesn't mean that they run those countries. So again, we are going to do a live stream. If I can find the exact time and date of the vote, we're going to live stream it. So be sure to tune in. But and there is reason for optimism, but you should understand that the absolute madness that is the U.S. House right now. Anyway, that's all I had, guys. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to our Colonel tier members. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier members. I could not do this stuff without you guys. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.